What's going on, guys? I am Toxic Jordan. Welcome back to the channel. So, the end of the year is upon us, and I figured I would make a little top 10 list for all of the units that have released in 2024, including brand new created units, as well as any units that have gotten additional awakenings, such as Easy A's, right? Or I guess in this case, even Super Easy A's are on here. So yeah, every single new character kit that has released in 2024. So we'll just go ahead and go through my top 10 here. I think we're just going to go ahead and start out with a couple of the honorable mentions, and then we'll get into the actual top 10 list. So without any further ado, let's jump into it. The very first unit that I've got on the honorable mention list, oh goodness, it's already going to be a hunt. I scrambled all of these up to make it harder for you guys to tell which, they're not in any specific order, so you won't be able to guess here. Okay, so we have STR Super Vegeta. Now, this card has been pretty solid. Obviously now, like, if you look at the game, one big highlight that we need to kind of take into account here for this list is that this is not, like, meant to be a power list. This is not meant to be, like, which units are the strongest from 2024, because obviously, this list would end up looking a lot different than it does. This is simply based on my favorite units to use, my most appreciated kits, the ones that were the most relevant for me as far as helping me with content in the game, things like that. So I would say this guy definitely deserves the honorable mention slot. He, when he first got his Easy A was very, very strong. One of the top units in the game that you could pick for damage. Obviously his defense wasn't quite as amazing, not like as comparable to his damage and stuff. But there were quite a few fights that he was able to get me through. Part of the reason for that is because he has so many different categories, right? So there's a lot of relevant places that you can use this guy. The guaranteed crits and the guaranteed stuns definitely helped at certain points as well. But yeah, so there were a few other, TURs that were along the same lines as him, like one that comes to mind is STR Kefla, also the Int transforming Gotenks. Those ones were, Easy 8 around the same time and had a similar amount of power. But I noticed with using those units, there would be a lot of situations where Gotenks doesn't dodge, or I guess the same could kind of be true of Kefla, or like you get a really bad RNG turn with Kefla and she only does like one super attack and you end up doing very little damage because she's not getting those extra attack raises and stuff, right? So I've noticed that with those characters, there are those flaws in their kits. Sometimes, usually, when I'd put them on the team, if I were to lose on that run, they would be the unit to cause that for me. The same cannot be said for this Super Vegeta, at least as in my experience. So that's why I've got him listed up here. Okay, so the next honorable mention that I want to bring up is the Family Kamehameha Gohan here. So the reason he is only on the honorable mention list and not actually on my list is because I did not pull him. So I have not used him nearly as much. Obviously, being a Kamehameha 200% lead gives him, freedom to be used as a friend lead decently easily, because there's a lot of different, 200% leads that are on the Kamehameha category. It's a pretty widespread category to, like, cross with other category leaders. So I have had the opportunity to use him a couple of times, but yeah, he is very, very strong. But without having the card on my own, I didn't want to actually rank him in the list. So he is an honorable mention as well. Okay, the next honorable mention that we have here, we'll pick this one next because he falls under the exact same category. So we've got Master Roshi here. Same deal. He is an amazing unit, very fun to use, very, very unique kit, and even more unique than his kit, I really, really like this. The way his leader skill is set up, there's only one other unit in the game right now that has a leader skill this way. Foreshadowing. But yeah, I think that this is really neat. The reason he's not on the list, I didn't pull him, unfortunately. I have red coins set aside for this guy. The moment I can get him with red coins, if I don't pull him on his return banner, I will be purchasing him with coins. This is like one of my most desired units since he came out on JP. And also, because I really do love running, like, the Peppy Gals team. I think that that's a lot of fun. I really enjoy those teams that just load up with all the Bulma cards and stuff, and have, like, the Mai's and Videls and everything with all their dodging and additionals and stuff. I think it's a really fun way to play the game. So, yeah, I definitely can't wait to pull this guy, but yeah, honorable mention for that for sure. Okay, so I guess we might as well continue on the trend. This Tech Broly here is the next unit that we've got. So I put him on honorable mentions because, again, I didn't pull the unit, so I used him very, very few amount of times, but same deal, he's got a very easy leader skill to use as a friend lead. I have run the Broly team in general many times where I use this guy as the friend lead, right? Because if you have all the Brolys on, then they're all on movie bosses and it works. This guy is super impressive at the very beginning. Obviously, he can't attack before you, before you launch his active skill, but he's got so much damage reduction. Look at this, 90% as a first attacker in the turn. But yeah, so he's just got a lot. Plus the guard and the defense and everything, right? So yeah, this is just a really, really solid unit to depend on while you're getting your rotations built up, and especially on the Broly team. There's a lot of units that need to build up and are going to need a couple of turns to start looking good, especially like in slot 1. So this guy just helps balance that fact for this team, and that is just a huge, huge bonus. Definitely not something to overlook. Again, another unit that if I had pulled them, they probably would be on the top 10 list for me. Okay, so bringing up the rear with the honorable mentions, I'm going to do 2 at once here. It is the 6th anniversary Part 2 LRs. We've got the 17 in Team Universe 7, and then the 17 in Golden Frieza. These 2 units right here, I'm not going to go too harshly into their kits. I just basically say that they are very, very strong, very impressive EZAs. One reason that I give Dokkan a round of applause for this is because when the 6th anniversary happened and the UI Goku and Evolution Blue Vegeta first released, it was, they were like the strongest units in the game. They were absolutely untouchable. It was insane to see how good they were. And then these Part 2 LRs followed them up, and they were kind of garbage on release. Like the Universe Survival Saga teams we were running and stuff, and like Miraculous Awakenings, Powerful Comeback, all of that. These units weren't even in like the top 6 on those teams. They weren't even like the best ones that you should be running. Which was a huge bummer because they're such unique units, right? Just with, like what characters you're seeing, the animations and stuff. Definitely, with combining like super and extreme class units and stuff, we haven't seen this a ton. And they did have interesting kits. Like they had very unique builds. They just didn't work great, right? Because the numbers weren't pushed high enough. They weren't quite strong enough. But when they got their EZAs, they actually turned into absolute behemoths and are now definitely prime picks for like the Universe 7 team, or a Universe Survival Saga team in general, right? So yeah, that is a definite big round of applause for me that these units are finally, for the first time in their existence in this game, very usable. The problem, the asterisk of why they're not on the top 10 list, but they're only honorable mentions, is because you can basically only run them on Universe Survival Saga, right? Well, I mean, obviously, like the 17 and Golden Frieza doesn't have the same passive skill restrictions, like needing the actual reps of 7 allies and stuff. But just the link set, the teams that they're on, their overall ability, I feel like they do work out the best on a Universe Survival Saga team. Though, that being said, I have used this unit specifically in a couple of other places. I just haven't noticed, like, an insane amount of... yeah, I just haven't noticed this, like, an insane amount of help from them, other than on the Universe Survival Saga teams. Okay, so that is it for the honorable mentions here. So sorry if you were hoping any of these characters were higher up on the list. So now let's go ahead and get into the actual top 10. So number 10 for me is going to be Mr. Selmax. So this card is unbelievable, right? This is there's one thing that's true about this card that wasn't true for basically any other card this year, or in like probably 3 years before, as well. This was also not true. A unit released that had a kit that was so powerful that you could literally use them as a lead with only 150% stats. That has basically never been true since we got to like the 200% meta, right? Cell Max was so tanky on release, you could actually run teams on like red zone stages and stuff of having him just be your like super boss's lead with only 150% stats. This is kind of insane. Just to think that he really didn't even need the extra stats for it was just worth having 2 Cell Maxes on the team versus you know, running like a second stronger leader and not having the second Cell Max around. So yeah, that definitely speaks volumes about this character. On top of that, he's got a banger OST, he's got awesome animations, like this guy just did it all, right? It's kind of nice that they did Cell Max correctly the first time around, just kind of alluding to how they kind of screwed things up with Beast Gohan, you know, with the whole Physical Ultimate Gohan only getting the active skill and all of that. It's nice that we waited a long time for it, but our first playable Cell Max is actually like a huge W. So we love that. He definitely deserves his spot on this list. Okay, coming in at number 9, we have Exchange Boo. So now this is one of those picks that might confuse people just a little bit because, again, he's not like the biggest, craziest, strongest unit ever, right? But he did get a very, very powerful EZA. And throughout 2024, there has been a pretty solid focus on Majin Buu Saga buffs. And there have been a lot of extreme types, right, that have, you know, come to exist, or EZA and stuff. Over the course of the year, you know, this guy included. This guy is still pretty solid to run on the team. You've got Int Fat Boo, right? There are quite a few different options here. The Super EZA for Physical Kid Boo. So yeah, lots of fun units to run him with. And on any lots of other you know, missions where you have to use Rainbow Extreme class teams and stuff. I have resorted to using him as my Extreme Tech unit. You know, he does like to be around other Majin Power category allies, which usually you are going to run him around other boos, so it does work out for you. But even without this extra buff, there are some stages that he is still, you know, very useful in without the other Majin Power category allies. So yeah, just the sheer amount that I have found this unit like relevant and that I've run him, that's why he's on this list. Just because I constantly find myself depending on this unit to get through runs, which is nice. Okay, next up we have, where is he at? There he is, Tech Vegeta. So yeah, I feel like this unit speaks for itself. If you've used this unit, then you understand. I really don't have to defend his honor. I feel like this is one of those units that is very, very unanimously liked by the community, right? There's not much like debate about whether this unit is good or not. I feel like, I mean, obviously every unit has its haters, but I feel like for the most part, the community kind of stands together that this guy was very, very impressive when he came out, and also is super fun to use, right? And there's definitely no doubting that his animations are really cool as well. So just a very fun unit to use. He's got a lot of relevant categories. Honestly, my favorite place to use him is Super Saiyans. The Super Saiyans team with just all of the EZAs from this year loaded up with the Super Vegeta, the Kale, or not the Kale, the Kefla, the you know, the transforming Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks, all of that stuff, right? But yeah, so definitely love this unit. Very, very good. And one thing to mention is that his active skill is very impressive. Where do they even have it listed? Oh, right here. Yeah. So it's just an attack. The active skill is just an attack, but it also transforms him, and I guess the transformation active skill happens first, and then the active skill super you can do after, right? But the transformation is the one that I'm talking about. It's very impressive. It has saved quite a few runs for me, right? I feel like historically when you have these kind of units where you know, in their super attack, they're raising stats and stacking and stuff. Oftentimes, I find that it's better to leave these units untransformed, because once you transform them, they end up not outputting to like the highest level that they need to, and oftentimes in long form content you need to like continue to raise them, but I didn't find that to be true with this unit. A lot of the times where I had the active skill available, actually transforming him was helping me win runs, so he definitely gets a pat on the back for that. Okay, enough about Vegeta. Now let's talk about Mr. Jiren. So Jiren obviously just came to global. We've only had access to Jiren for like little less than a month. But one of my favorite teams to run all year has been the Universe Survival Saga teams. I have been using like the 6th anniversary LRs and various other units on that category, and I didn't think that it could be any more fun. I absolutely love using that team. It's such a good experience in game. And then Jiren released, and it actually did get even more fun. We have just another god tier tank with amazing damage output, lots of utility in his kit with the standby and stuff, the invincible turn that he gets during that. So yeah, just a very, very cool unit. And then obviously, you know, it's sick animations too. So yes, go Jiren, go Jiren. Okay, next up here we have, oh, actually, is he even on here? Surely he is. Am I blind? Am I blind? I could have swore he was on here. Oh no. Where is he at? Oh, there he is. Okay, cool. Mr. Glorio. Okay, so obviously, you know, this unit is brand new. We have barely gotten to experience this guy at all in game, but here was our spoilers. Another unit with the Master Roshi passive skill, right? He's got the straight 200% to demonic power, but then also has a normal, you know, double 170 lead with the extra 30% to one category. So yeah, Glorio, what even needs to be said about Glorio? He's insane, right? You know, this unit starting out the turns with close to 10 million attack stat, and if, you know, all goes well with his passive, launching all of these additional super attacks by the end of the turn, you know, because of all of these attack raises that he gets between the attacks, he's launching like over 30 million damage super attacks, and then after he's done all of these attacks, he's not going to be taking any damage either. So yeah, this unit is insane. And then on top of that, obviously, you know, he's got this going for him as the third attacker in the turn. So it is a good thing that he is a very good leader, has a very usable leader skill, because you do want 2 of him on the team, so that 2 out of your 3 floaters on the team are him, providing 50% attack and defense for 3 turns, which is like absolutely insane. So yeah, I've only gotten to use this guy like, you know, a few times. Aside from like link leveling him, I've only run him in challenge content like once or twice so far. But I can just tell he is that guy. And at the end of 2025, he's still probably going to be on this list. He is the next unit in line that just has that insanely overpowered, busted, like, is not falling off anytime soon type of kit, like we saw with STR Bulma, like we saw with STR Beast Gohan, like we saw with Tech Piccolo, like we saw with Tech Ultimate Gohan. This is just the next unit in that lineage of amazing units to release, right? So we absolutely love Glorio. Okay. Next up, okay, so now we're oh man, now we're getting into the real stuff here. Okay, so the top 5 units is where we're at. I would say there is a clear line between everything down here and then these top 5 as far as what these have contributed to my account, the number of times I've run them on teams, and just how much I enjoy the units overall, right? So number 5, we have Blue Vegeta here. So, you know, obviously this is just like one of the most powerful EZAs that's like ever come to the game. So fun fact for me, when the 6th anniversary LRs actually released, the UI Goku was like my favorite unit to use in the game. I was using him alongside the STR UI Goku. And basically like a lot of other UI Gokus and stuff at the time was like the best version of that team. But I didn't actually enjoy using this guy. found that with his stacking damage reduction within the turn, the first few hits that he took, especially if you like had put him in slot 1 or something, he would get hit pretty hard. And even after having the damage reduction built up post super, he was still not able to tank super attacks to the level that I wanted. So I just always decided to depend on the Goku instead, because the Goku could just straight up dodge, right? And so other than those few fights that didn't allow you to dodge, the UI Goku just performed better, because not getting hit with attacks at all was going to be better than getting hit and actually taking some damage. So I didn't really like this guy, but I mean, now obviously that isn't an issue, right? If you're able to get him, you know, a couple of turns of build up of these different stats, and then, you know, he launches out like, you know, he starts the turn with like 800k defense, and then he launches out like 2 or 3 supers and gets, you know, these great defense raises on top of that and stuff. And then he gets hit with a couple of normals to raise that damage reduction, and then he gets supered. He's just going to double-digit tank it. It doesn't really matter what it is, right? So, you know, this guy is absolutely insane. And then, you know, it's also worth noting this is a unit that has a revive. He needs to receive 5 attacks, so you're definitely going to need to be in like a little bit of a longer form fight, but 5 attacks is definitely something that he can handle, right? Usually when you're using this guy on the team, he is one of the more tanky units that you would be throwing in the way of multiple attacks like that. So yeah, can be very, very good, and obviously is very, very good alongside the Goku, because they link up very, very well together. I think 6 out of 7 links if you're to use him next to UI Goku, but then he works, in my opinion, even better on the same team but the opposite rotation, where you can potentially have both of their revives active at the same time, so then you're just coasting, waiting for that one turn where you die because you have the protection on both rotations. So yeah, this guy is really, really cool. Okay. Next up, we have got Mr. Beast Gohan himself. So obviously, everybody is completely aware of how insanely busted this unit is. One of the craziest units of all time in Dokkan. I am sure that there is at least a small portion of you that are jaw-dropped that he is this low for me, right? But it's kind of, I don't know, it's an important point to mention how often I end up putting a unit on the team. I have created quite a few different like movie hero builds, superhero builds, you know, and honestly, one of the biggest reasons why I haven't used this unit more is because a lot of the time when I have the freedom, I'm going for the universe survival saga side of things, which he doesn't fit under, rather than just the generic superhero part of it. So that is a big thing to note. But one of my favorite places to use him is you know, on AGL UI Goku's team, because he is on Miraculous Awakening, so even though he's not on the reps of 7 part, you can still use him on that team, but then you get 2 of the UI Goku instead of having to use 2 of the Beast. I've just found that to be a better way to go, considering if... One big thing about Beast Gohan is that he has to take a lot of attacks. This is probably my least favorite part about his kit. The fact that he has to take a bunch of attacks in order for him to get more attack, basically. Like, there are so many different things that build up in his kit based on him receiving attacks, which makes sense because he is a super tanky unit that is, you know, meant to be put in the way of all of the attacks. He has his standby skill that's going to give him the, you know, like the Team Protector mechanic where he takes all of the damage for the turn. So yeah, it definitely makes sense that he's built that way, but the problem is that he has to take the attacks within the turn before he attacks in order to like get these buffs, which means you have to throw him in slot 1. And if you don't get lucky and have like an onslaught of attacks right at the beginning, he only gets hit once or twice, then his attack stat isn't going to be that impressive, and he's only going to be throwing out like maybe 8 million, 10 million, something like that. And then you've got AGL UI who's going to follow him up and probably blow him out of the water, right? So yeah, he works really well on his standby skill turn where he's tanking all of the attacks. You can put him in slot 3 so that he takes all of those attacks leading up to the very end of the turn, and then he can hit really, really hard. But other than that, I feel like this guy is just kind of underwhelming in attack performance, which usually isn't the most important thing. But if we're talking about like gods of the game like this, where you have basically a full team of units where you don't really need to worry about dying, you know, Blue Vegeta's not taking any damage, but he's dishing out like double the damage that this guy does, it, barring those specific turns that obviously Beast Gohan, if he takes 7 attacks before, attacking in slot 1, then he is going to look amazing. But you can't, guarantee that to happen. Whereas the Blue Vegeta, after 3 or 4 turns in battle, it's just going to be like that regardless of where the enemy attacks are. That is the biggest inherent problem, is that Beast Gohan is dependent on the enemy attacks in order to look good. Okay. I think that is enough about Beast. I'm pretty sure I have justified my point there. But because it is such a majorly... a major release that people feel so heavily about in one way or the other, I felt like I needed to put some words out there to just justify myself a little bit. Okay, so number 3 on this list is probably going to be the biggest question mark to a lot of people. It is Broly, Chilai, and Lemo. So, this is... Oh, dude. was one of my most long-awaited EZAs. From the time when, we got the Power of Wishes category during the 8th anniversary, and we were able to run a Power of Wishes team. They had finally gotten a new category because they only had these 3, right? It was Movie Bosses, Join Forces, and Bond of Friendship. Those were the 3 categories that they had, and then obviously Super Bosses and Power of Wishes released for them later, but just those 2 categories alone have given them an insane amount more of ability for playtime, in my account at least. But they've always had one of the most unique kit designs. They have the same thing that the Heroes Mechikabura unit has, right, where they are giving buffs to all allies, either attack buffs or defense buffs based on what color of key you are able to select. And then on top of that, they are a nuker. So the more key spheres you get, the stronger they are going to be. And then obviously the biggest and most important part of their kit is right here. They have guaranteed evasion with 7 or more key spheres obtained. Now, with all of the insane support they're getting, the fact that they can actually throw out a good attack stat, and this, randomly change key spheres of a certain type, Fizz excluded, into Fizz. This only works when your key is a little bit less, and then they have the same, the same effect as the 50% support units, where when their HP is super low, they change the entire field into physical key spheres, which, if you get lucky enough to proc that, you're going to get a full heal off the key spheres, and then because they got the 7 or more key spheres obtained, they are, going to guarantee dodge in slot 1 for you after you select all of those, and because of their nuking, they're going to dish out a very, very strong attack. So obviously that's only talking about, one turn of the fight. But I have found this unit to be very consistent. Nowadays, there are so many strong Rainbow Orb Changers, especially on the Power of Wishes team. The biggest one that comes to mind is STR Bulma. Anytime I've ever run a team, it's just the Power of Wishes team, really, where you have STR Bulma alongside Broly, Chilai, and Lemo. That is a powerful rotation that I never break up. I don't ever run into a situation where I can't get the 7 orbs for Broly, Chilai, and Lemo, on that type of team. So as long as you're conscientious about the type of units that you put next to them, they just work amazingly. I don't know. They've just always worked so good for me. So this unit is very near and dear to my heart. I also really do love the animations. I think it's very cool. So yeah, that is Broly, Chilai, and Lemo there. Okay, so coming in at number 2, we have got... Oh, I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. We have got Tech UI Goku. So Tech UI, one of the most fun units to release in the year for sure. When he first released, there was a lot of question marks going around of if this was the number 1 unit in the game or if Beast still held that spot. I think as time went on, it was very quick to see that this guy wasn't quite that good. I don't think he deserves best unit in the game, top 5 unit in the game, even at this point. You might be able to say that Beast is still top 5. Maybe there's still an argument for him at 1, but definitely not with this guy, right? But despite, noticing the little bit of problems with his power. He is pretty weak in base form. That is something that a lot of people don't like about this unit, and I would tend to agree that, like, he's not really providing much damage output until after he transforms and stuff, but the transformation is insane. Like, once you do the transformation, then it's just like it's unreal to watch, right? He has the guaranteed dodging after you transform. I don't know, he's countering with an insane amount of damage, right? So if you throw him in slot 1, or I guess it doesn't really matter what slot he's in for the counters, but yeah, once he's post super attack, and he has raised his attack and stuff, then his counters like hit insanely hard, and he's very fun. But yeah, he's also got a really good leader skill. This is very, very widespread. This is one of the most important reasons why he is all the way up here at the top of the list where he is. You know, just the entirety of Universe Survival Saga. As if that weren't enough, then you just throw on all of Realm of Gods. Like, yeah, there's some overlap there, but there is a lot of good Realm of Gods units that are not going to be on Universe Survival Saga, right? Because there's the entire extreme side of things, right? All of the, like Goku Blacks and Zamasus and things like that are all going to be on Realm of Gods. And then Entrusted Will is going to include a bunch of, like, Gohans and Trunkses and stuff that are not from, you know, Super. That could even just be from Z and stuff. So yeah, there's just a giant plethora of characters that you can put together. There are a lot of times where he is available as a leader. Very, very fun stuff. There are a lot of times where I'll build a team, even like a team that requires mission clear or whatever, and then he does not actually fall on whatever mission is required, but because of the leader skill he has available, I could still run him as a friend lead, because more often than not, I think it's kind of permanently true at this point that whatever missions they require in Dokkan, they never include friend leads. They're not like a part of a mission. So if you have to do it with an entire team of like a specific kind of unit, like let's say it was all Universe 11 that you had to do. This is actually a perfect example. Oh, I can't remember what the event was, but there was a Universe 11 mission that was really hard to do. And I used, you know, the Jiren team, but then I used this guy as my friend because all of the units on that team were on Universe Survival Saga. So I was able to just use him as a friend lead and then get the W and get the mission, right? So yeah, I just have a lot of fun with this guy. Another really, really important thing to know about his transform state is this right here. This is important. This is the only character in the entire game that has this ability. So superclass enemies and allies can nullify attacks that are guaranteed to hit, making it possible to evade these attacks. So there are various bosses throughout the game that have guaranteed, attacks guaranteed to hit. You cannot dodge them. So when you bring a team full of dodging characters, like this UI Goku and all of the other UI Gokus you're going to run on his team consistently, once you activate his domain, then you're able to actually dodge these attacks. It's so vital for really, like, a lot of really, really hard fights in the game. So yeah, I mean, I guess it's not a lot. There isn't like that big of a handful of bosses in the game that are actually tough and that do cancel dodge. But this is just the free and easy answer to that, right? So yeah, there are a lot of stages that I have only beat because I was using his dodge re-enabling ability. Okay, so on to the very end. I feel like based on this list, it should be pretty obvious who we're about to choose here. But in case you're still confused, AGL UI. AGL UI is my #1 unit of the year. Absolutely. He's just so good. Like, he's just... I've used him hundreds of times. He's maybe gotten hit once, like, ever. So something I think just this year was discovered about the way that his kit is written. Let's see here. This portion of his passive right here, this additional 7% chance to evade within the turn. It turns out that actually stacks on top of this. So it's not like you're getting, let's say he dodges one super, so you have the 77% chance proc, and then he dodges again, or he dodges it, so then when the second attack is coming at him, it's not like you have a 77% chance followed by a 7% chance because this just added on, it actually directly adds to that number. So the second time you dodge, you have an 84% chance. And then a 91% chance, and then a 98% chance, and then it's 100%. So it literally like stacks on top of itself until it's up to 100. So the fact that that is the way this kit operates makes it pretty impossible to take a hit with him, like ever. And then on top of all of this dodging, I also have a full dodge build on him, so he's got like an additional 30% chance to dodge that procs after this every time. So I just never get hit with this guy, basically. And oh yeah, also it's worth noting that he has guaranteed dodge for the first turn that he's out. Like all of that would be enough for me to keep him at number 1. But then on top of that, he also has a free revive if you're lower than 77% HP at the start of turn. Like, that's all it requires, is just to be below that HP at the start of the turn, and then you get the free revive. And then on top of that, he's also doing an insane amount of damage. And on top of that, he has a pretty good leader skill, and we can run him as a lead. So, like, so he just has everything. He just has absolutely everything. Not to mention, one of the best arts in the game. His animations are super cool to watch. He has one of, along with his counterpart, the Blue Vegeta, has one of the, like, coolest cosmetic things that they've done in the game, which is when you launch his active skill, he gets an outfit change, which for him obviously makes his gi blow off for the top half of his body and become all tattered like it does when he's late into the fight, rather than being able to wear the top portion of it. So yeah, just looks super sick. Nothing's gonna beat this unit for me. I wouldn't be too surprised, at least if they continue to give out some substantial Universe Survival Saga buffs and keep that a relevant team that doesn't fully fall off. I could see this unit still being at number 1 at the end of 2025. We'll see. We will see what happens. It's going to be a big year for Dokkan. First year fully synced between the global and JP versions, so who knows what to expect. But yeah, I at the very least, I'd be willing to bet that he is going to be on my top 10 list next year. Even if like Blue Vegeta falls off or something, I think that this guy will still hold on much longer. So there we go. That is my full top 10 list of the year. Feel free to let me know how much of a W or an L you think I took in the comments below here. Which units down here in this big mess would you have nominated up here on the list that I neglected to? Let me know. I would be very curious to know how my opinion aligns with your guys's. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed your year of Dokkaning in 2024, and I'm excited for another awesome adventure ahead in 2025. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace.